Movie Club Strikes Back, it's me Jenny, and this is another belated review for Movie Club Strikes Back, and this is for Charlie's pick, link somewhere on screen to his channel, and he chose the adaptation of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, the movie. And I have very mixed feelings about this film. To start with, the good. My favourite thing about this is the way the book is translated to screen, because of course it was originally a radio play, and so having the visual, almost IKEA instructional book version of the kind of cartoon visual to go with the monologues is just so perfect. It's brilliantly done. It's really good at helping you understand what is being said in a very visual, funny way. There's a whole other level of visual humour that's going on screen, which of course couldn't be done with a radio play. Stephen Fry as the book is fantastic, and I could not have thought of a better choice for the book in the modern era other than Stephen Fry, and I loved the book. The book was perfect. The other aspect that I really loved was the fact that with a lot of sci-fi epics you find, for convenience and for a level of empathy, most aliens are in some version or another humanoid or have a lot of human features, and there is a sort of standard. Even if you go into the world of Star Wars, you do get a lot of variations between the alien entities, but you do normally stick with the humans, and you see a lot more human crowds than you do alien crowds. But with this, the aliens are such a weird, convoluted mess of species, all of them so unique and so weird and wonderful. And it helps really set the fact that the humour of this series and the humour of this entire franchise is based on it being random. It's based on petunias and pangalactic gargle blasters and whales and just everything that you can think of. Pigs that say, yes, of course you can eat my ribs, the third one on the left is the best. And it's weird and wonderful, and 42 and Scrabble. And it's just amazing, the fact that the aliens just help set that visual side of the weirdness. It's really well handled. Casting I have mixed feelings about. I honestly don't mind that they cast a lot of the characters as American cast members, even though it is a quintessentially British thing, as long as Arthur Dent remained British, which he did. I think all the cast do a really good job with the roles they've been given, particularly Zaphod. Was really well brought to screen. I mean, the whole second head being removed plotline was incredibly convoluted, along with the kidnapping plotline for Trillian, neither of which happen in the series, and it felt like unnecessary plot diversions when you could have just gone onto a next thing or bogged out some of the humorous aspects. Instead you're going on these unnecessary tangents, and I just felt that just unnecessary, particularly the Trillian kidnapping plotline or arresting plotline. It just felt like her entire character, instead of being this really interesting and exciting female character who's just, going in space. Why not? Go to space. And dealing with being in space in a very calm, controlled way, and turned her into a damsel, which I didn't like so much. That was probably the main plot problems that I had. The fact that they went off on these random tangents. The acting, fantastic. The characterisation, really good. I have mixed feelings about Morgan Freeman's performance, because I feel like sometimes when he's being directed by an American as a quintessential Brit, there's a lot of he comes off as a bit of a whiner. And I suppose Arthur Dent is a bit of a whiner. He does tend to get pissy about the stuff that goes on, but he does get that, oh, this is awful, but oh well, better carry on. Can't have a cup of tea, that's disgusting, let's carry on. And in this one they made it a bit more, I suppose it's the strength of it being an adapted film, was that they had to make it more linear. They had to make a set pathway for these people, so they're going from point A to point B, you've got running villains, and everything's a bit more linear, while the charm of the series is that it's infinite improbability. Their entire plot is charged and powered by completely random things happening, and the cast and the characters have no control about what's going on. They just step by step keep going, and that's the charm of the radio play, and it had to be made more linear for the series, but I just felt like there was unnecessary tangents built in, which took away from some of the humour. Similarly, the very ending, spoiler alert, the concept that Earth could be built without Arthur Dent in it, and it was that quick to make, and all they had to do was flip a switch and the evolutionary scale just kicked forward into full human time and it goes back to the 2000s, really took away from what the original was about, because after Earth is gone, it's gone. It's not a, you know, you can't just reboot it from exactly the same point. They do rebuild Earth, there is an Earth point 2, but they have to start from the prehistoric era, they have to start from the primordial ooze, and it left me with a very different taste in my mouth and not necessarily a good one. For me, I've talked about this before, I'll maybe put a link up on screen too in my previous video. For me, my enjoyment of adaptations comes from the fact that I take pride in separating the original from the adaptation and separating the universes, so I can enjoy them in very different ways as different entities. The Game of Thrones book I love all of the Game of Thrones books. The Game of Thrones series I adore, but I do view them as separate entities. I imagine the characters differently. Certain things change and I don't mind because they're separate entities in my brain, and I don't view one as the pinnacle of that story, the perfect version of that story. They're both really well done. Even though of course the source material is perhaps more complex, it's a different experience. And I pride myself on the fact that when it comes to book adaptations I can separate those universes. But Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, I listened to the tapes on repeat as a child, over and over again, and for me, the problem that I had with this adaptation is that I do view the radio play as the pinnacleized version of this story, and so the adaptation feels sacrilegious, even if there are a lot of things to be highly commended in it. I'm so in love with the radio play, and there's some jokes that were so perfectly done in there that just haven't been put into this film, like the I had to go down to the planning office. Yes, and that's where the demolition plans are. I had to go there a day before yesterday when a workman came round. I asked him whether or not he wanted to clean the windows. He wiped a couple of windows, charged me a £5, then he told me the house was being demolished. So I went down the local planning office and I had to go into the planning department. It was locked in a cellar with no light. And the planning permission was hidden in a folder in a disused toilet with a sign on it saying beware of the leopard. And just like, that is genius. I know my delivery is awful, but just that sort of level of weird random perfectness. It's times like this when I'm stuck in a Vogon spaceship about to be thrown out into the vacuum of space when I really wish I'd listened to what my mother told me when I was a boy. Why, what was that? I don't know, I didn't listen. Like, it's perfect, and those couple of jokes that I can reel off the top of my head not being featured, it just broke my heart. So I think trying to be very, balanced in this, I think if you haven't watched or read the book or listened to the radio play, I suggest watching it. It's a fun, quirky film. I did find some of the plot points a little bit off-putting, but I think that's because I am so in love with the original. And I'm sorry I didn't love it as much as I should have done, but I'm just so in love with the original so much. Doom doom dooby dooby doom. Doom doom doom. Doom doom ba dum dum. Bong bong ba bong. I'm gonna listen to the radio again. Anyway, feel free to comment down below and tell me how much of a psychotic I am, and I will see you guys all very soon. Bye guys!